This presentation is on Corporate Compliance 101. Regardless of what type of industry you're in, everyone needs corporate compliance. Particularly if you're in mental health, you definitely need to have a corporate compliance program. The training objectives today are understanding the purpose of a corporate compliance program, understand the role of the corporate compliance department, and understand your role in compliance. So first and foremost, what is compliance? Compliance can be described as conducting a business and oneself in an ethical, moral, and legal manner. My company, Therapeutic Connections Compliance Program, has an emphasis on fraud and abuse in the Medicaid programs, but also includes other laws as well as regulations. So it is doing the right thing and the right thing to do, which describes corporate compliance. First thing is recovery audits. So at my organization, the clinical director reviews all notes, assessments, and treatment plans, progress notes, and discharge summaries for the month. All submitted notes should include the following: dates, duration of services, types of visits, places the visit was conducted, and include the coordinator's or the therapist's signature. The clinical director reviews all notes and ensures that all information is accurate, measurable, and appropriate, as well as attainable. The CEO enters the monthly claims into our system so that we can be reimbursed. Every 6 months, the CEO reviews the Medicaid claims for non-payment and or claims entry errors. We call that reconciliation. Review of Medicaid claims paid can go as far back as 12 months for each submission. Anything more than 12 months, you cannot go back or be reimbursed for those services. Corporate compliance program. So internally developed program that promotes ethical and legal business practices. It is designed to prevent, detect, correct, and if necessary, report non-compliant activity to the appropriate federal and state authorities. A compliance program, it helps your organization to remain on the right path so that you can live your mission, your values, uphold the reputation in the community, as well as caring for your clients. It helps Therapeutic Connections to maintain a moral and ethical culture. We abide by the code of ethics and conducts. So why have a code of ethics and conducts? Well, you want to have a code of ethics and conduct to uphold your mission, your values, and your overall ethics. The core of Therapeutic Connections is within those code of ethics. Why do they apply to, or who do they apply to? Well, they apply to everyone. We should incorporate the code of ethics in our day-to-day operations. What does the code of ethics cover? So the code of ethics, it covers the treatment of clients, documentation, integrity, and security of business records, client and contractors, employee safety, and the obligation to report compliance violations. So where can you find the code of ethics? Your code of ethics should be posted in the office as well as in the new client packets for all new clients that come into your program. It also should be posted on your website as well for all to see. This is our local compliance hotline within the state of Maryland. If you're watching this presentation and you're in another jurisdiction or another state, you need to find out what is your compliance hotline number, and you want to ensure that those hours are also listed. For us, our helpline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Learn more about compliance. So for more information about compliance, clients are always encouraged to contact us at our office, or they can email us as well. They can meet with a staff member. They can reference our compliance program, and they can report any compliance issues that they may have with our organization or your organization on an online helpline. So compliance training. So a significant element of corporate compliance program is education. So all therapeutic connections staff receive a compliance training. Contractors, employees, they receive an annual refresher just to be up to speed in terms of what that corporate compliance is. So compliance steps, again, having internal audits and monitoring. We have specific areas where we look to audit specific areas as it relates to human resources, to client files. We want to make sure that those notes are measurable and attainable, and that it's appropriate. We want to ensure that we have client quotations in their statements to really capture exactly what they said. We want to make sure that we're implementing all of the policies that we have. We also want to research all of the rules. So seeing what our COMAR regulations requirements are and making sure that we're operating and engaging with others within that same space. We also want to educate individuals as much as we can about what is acceptable and appropriate. We also want to participate on multidisciplinary teams, interact with government and private and third-party auditors, and help maintain our strongest compliance program possible. So we want to learn as much externally and really incorporate that within our organization internally and live that every day. Our compliance staff, we have different auditors, and those auditors on my organization, they compare the legal, mental, and health records to charge on the person serve account. So currently you have different names here within my organization, but it's our two of our managers and our administrative staff. You want to make sure that you have a clinician to do your organization's audits, because they're able to look at that documentation from a clinical lens. And you want to make sure that you have an administrative person to make sure that all of the dates match and people's names are spelled correctly. All of your clients and families' names are spelled correctly. You want to have an internal and compliance auditor, so that administrative staff would also perform those audits and investigate clients and personnel files. For us, we do it on a quarterly basis. Our compliance staff, again, talked about this already, but that clinical compliance audits to investigate that documentation, wants to also make sure the diagnostic coding is appropriate, government audit. So we have a team that responds to audit requests and findings, tracks any trends as it relates to any errors when we're entering claims on a monthly basis. We want to collaborate monthly to discuss those areas that require audits and investigation, and create reports and involve the systems integration and make those necessary changes to anything that we need to. Once a claim or ethical issue is discovered, it must be investigated. If we see any errors within those claims, we want to investigate that. And then we also want to just set a timeline. We want to see that trend going in a downward spiral. So let's say if you see, let's say 20% of your CPT codes are entered incorrectly. Once you identify that being an issue, you really want to get that number to 0. So the next month when you run that report, if it goes down to 15, and then the next month it goes down to 10, the next month it goes to 5, the next month it goes to 0, you can actually see that trend going downward. But it could go from like 20% to 0% within a month, which is always the goal. That's an example that may not be an issue at all, but it was the first one to pop into my head, but you get what I'm saying. Something that is measurable in terms of the issue. Then you also want to set up disciplinary standards, right? So create an organizational culture that emphasizes ethical behaviors, right? And also, how do you discipline folks that are not following the compliance codes as well? I know within my organization, if certain data was not put into the system within 24 to 48 hours, our staff was locked out of the system. So they could not put their notes in until we had all of the required information, and then we would open it up and let them in. Be familiar with the compliance policies. So having a protocol for search warrants, Ask to see identification if you have an investigator come from the core service agency or the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene. You want to see their identification, obtain a warrant and their identification, secure a signature, the purpose of their investigation, get the date, request permission to copy the medical records or to review the medical records. In our organization, our administrative person at the front desk has a blank form. If someone comes in, we have a policy that she follows to see the badge, to have them sign the form, to make a copy of their identification. All of those things should be listed within your internal policies as well. Identify theft, red flags. So protect clients' mental health information and the integrity of medical records by positively identifying the client at admission and before discharge. So something as simple as looking at a driver's license or a basic identification to know that this is the client that's actually receiving the services. Report red flag warning signs to your immediate supervisor, who will review and if necessary will contact the clinical director for further investigation. Gifts. We all like gifts, right? But certain gifts are not acceptable and certain gifts are acceptable. So these are a list of acceptable gifts: nominal value gifts such as food or flowers, preferably given to the entire department or unit. Those are all acceptable gifts. A not acceptable gift is cash or gift certificates. Those things are not acceptable. False Claims Act. Federal law has existed since the Civil War, so government tools for fighting fraudulent, abusive, or false claims, including those submitted to the Medicaid program. Examples of compliance consequences. So Medicaid fraud. If someone is committing Medicaid fraud, and they can receive imprisonment and or a fine. A civil false claim is up to $10,000 per false claim and 3 times damages. Anti-kickback statute, criminal, imprisonment and or fine. A civil fine can also be instituted. Confidentiality statute, HIPAA, breaking HIPAA laws, it's a fine from $100,000 to $50,000 per violation or per record, with the maximum penalty of $1.5 million per year for each violation. And identity fraud, imprisonment and or a fine. These are all examples of compliance consequences as it relates within the state of Maryland. Again, if you're watching this presentation and you're outside of Maryland and you're in another state, identify what are the compliant consequences within your jurisdiction. So your responsibility as a business owner or manager within your organization: perform job duties in an ethical and compliant manner. Adhere to all policies and procedures. Know what those policies and procedures are. Report potential violations of policies, compliance programs, or code of ethics. Cooperate with your compliance department during investigations and audits, and ask questions and report your own concerns, because we all want to know. This is very important. Compliance ultimately depends on each individual within the organization, choosing to do the right thing, even when it is not convenient or takes more time. I invite you all to discuss this and pose any questions, and also to look at your personal policies and procedures as it relates to corporate compliance. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you.